Hello everyone, Robert of the Game House here bringing you another great video, and this time we're going to be doing a review of Riot Forge and Tequila Works' newest game, The Song of Nunu, a League of Legends story. But before diving into that, you need to make sure that you hit that subscribe button and bell icon so that you don't miss any other Game House videos, including reviews, guides, some sports content, and some other interesting videos that you might enjoy. Also, let us know what you think of the Song of Nunu, or at least tell us which of the Riot Forge games to come out so far have been your favorite in the comments section below. With that, let's head into the review. To start off, it's been a great year for League of Legends fans, especially those who love the lore of the universe. All the Riot Forge games have been great additions to the backstory of so many events and characters that we've only gotten bits and pieces of. The Song of Nunu is a game that sees Nunu and his faithful yeti Willump making their way across the frozen tundras of the Freljord. Their adventure has some interesting turns and ultimately feels like it is setting up for something much bigger. Now, when looking at the gameplay, the Song of Nunu at points feels like a combination of Ocarina of Time and most of the wall climbing action adventure games in today's gaming era. The player gets to play songs, or more correctly notes, at different points in the game and is climbing all over the map, both as Nunu by himself and the combination of Nunu and Willump. The major points of gameplay are the puzzles, which are, again, very common across many action-adventure games. Most of them are certainly interesting, at least initially. The combination of the music along with different tasks really amplifies the song part of the title. The issue is that these puzzles are not terribly complicated and get figured out pretty quickly. It makes it feel as though this game was intended for children or young adults more than the average League of Legends fan. When it comes to the combat of the game, it is in a similar boat as the puzzles. Combat in the Song of Nunu is something that feels like it is only going to get more complex and enjoyable, but it never really moves forward in a significant way. The combining of basic attacks with snowballs is fun, but it becomes a bit easy, repetitive, and unsatisfying very quickly. This is truly a shame considering what Nunu and Willump are able to do in regular League of Legends. The gameplay itself has its merits, especially at the beginning and the end of the game, but the problems lie in the fact that it never really grows, and in the middle of the game, it almost gets lost in the shuffle. The puzzles get a bit more complex, but are quickly figured out, and the combat ends up being almost a waste of time, as if it was an afterthought to the rest of the game. But when looking at the graphics, this is where Song of Nunu starts to find its footing. Getting to see the different champions in such a unique and enjoyable art style was really a treat. Their facial expressions flowed well and helped the player to really feel along with each of the champions throughout the story. There were some issues here as well though. Some areas felt as though they were really thought out and full of interesting foliage and other memorable markers. Others, like the very beginning of the game, felt quite barren. While the Freljord is supposed to represent a real-world Arctic terrain, the Song of Nunu misses opportunities to really show off more of the beauty of the Freljord. The cutscenes itself were seamless with the rest of the game and helped to keep the players invested. In addition to that, getting to see the size of certain champions was extremely satisfying. In League of Legends, most champions are pretty similar to their models, but in the scope of these characters in their own arenas, it was really impressive to see. Some were a lot bigger than you would have expected. When looking at the graphical issues, the game ran very well when we were testing it on PC. There were occasional annoyances though. Sometimes it felt like things would hit you or do damage when your character model looked to be clear of whatever the danger was. And while it was never enough to be a major problem, it did cause some unnecessary frustration. Outside of that, the game looked fantastic and ran extremely well. Now, when considering the game is called Song of Nunu, the music being a major bright spot and arguably the best part of the game should not come as a surprise to anyone. Before diving into the incredible score, there was one negative. The instrument that Nunu uses is great, but being able to play it randomly was not as satisfying as it was expected. You are unable to play any of the songs outside of the designated areas, and while maybe that's not a big deal to most, this certainly felt like a missed opportunity. The comparison to Ocarina of Time, where Link is able to bring out his ocarina and play a song at any time, felt like something that Song of Nunu could have used and would have been a very welcome addition. But beside that, let's take a look at the fun part, which was the score. The score of this game is absolutely amazing from start to finish. Each area and character having their own music was a really nice touch. But the best part was hearing the champion themes like Brahms every time he was around, and it weaved into the background in a very satisfying manner. Truly, this game should be looked at for awards for the score, as it is arguably the most satisfying and delightful part of the Song of Nunu. Lastly, we want to take a look at the story, and of the major areas that we take a look at, the story, at least to me, is the most important part. Luckily, if the music was the best aspect of the Song of Nunu, the story was a close second. It's an emotional tale, both for Nunu and Willump, and even champions like Lysandra. Parts of it are a little predictable, but there are enough twists, including one major one, to keep things really interesting. It is the backstory and new lore for Nunu, Willump, and Lysandra that really makes Song of Nunu stand out. They weave in each story seamlessly and blur the lines between good and evil and right and wrong extremely well. This has truly been the case for most of the Riot Forge games so far, and is really a compliment to the storytellers at Riot Games for showing just how deep and compelling each of their champions are. There was one major problem with the story though. Well, technically two, but they overlap. The story is too short and it leaves the player with a cliffhanger. While that's not normally a bad thing, it really feels like Tequila Works and Riot Forge left a lot on the table with the Song of Nunu. The game is only about 6 hours long. It could maybe be stretched to 7 or 8 if players struggle with some of the puzzles. But truthfully, it was a huge disappointment as it left me wanting more because the story and some of the gameplay was really interesting. Luckily, the story itself was very good and is clearly setting up something major in the League of Legends universe. Now that this is confirmed to be canon, it seems as though the Song of Nunu is a prequel to a major part of the story that many lore fans have been wanting to see come to fruition for quite some time. Will Tequila Works continue its efforts with a sequel, or will this just be the beginning of something much bigger? Tequila Works and Riot Forge have created a memorable game for those who love League of Legends and its lore. Nunu, Willump, and Lysandra all shine at different points, while Braum is the same, but in a very Braum sort of way, which I think most people would consider that to be good. The game suffers in some big ways, especially in the gameplay, but it left me wanting more due to its characters, solid story, and compelling musical score. The Song of Nunu was enjoyable, and has a story that clearly sets up a fun and intriguing future for all of Runeterra and the rest of the League of Legends universe. I hope that you've enjoyed this review, and from our house to yours, we'll catch you on the next video.